He's hurting, and this is what he's best at giving interviews.
You know what's funny? You see it that way. I see it as I think he really does think he's better than half the quarterbacks in this league.
He probably does.
I like that.
He probably does.
I like that a lot.
Tony Grossi thought he had the golden take of the year, but the second Shedeur Sanders showed up, that so-called masterpiece went up in flames like a dumpster fire on live TV. One moment, Grossi strutted around like he was about to crown himself the king of sports talk. The next, his confidence vanished so fast, it looked like he was frantically searching Google for how to backspace in real life. This wasn't just a clap back, it was a full-blown wrecking crew demolition, and the smoke is still hanging in the air. Grossi walked into that studio acting like he had a cannon loaded with dynamite aimed right at Shedeur's reputation. What he didn't realize? That cannon was stuffed with Nerf darts. The man puffed out his chest, threw out some dated take, and sounded like someone who still brags about having dial-up internet. Shedeur, meanwhile, barely lifted a finger.
I be hoping you got something positive to say about me. You only say negative stuff about me.
No, I don't.
And I'm like, I ain't do nothing to you.
No, don't think bad.
I ain't seen nothing positive that you ever say. But, I see something positive that you say.
Just being in the room with that aura of confidence made Grossi's whole argument collapse like cheap lawn furniture in a thunderstorm. It melted away faster than an ice cream cone in an Arizona parking lot. And the worst part? Shedeur didn't even have to break a sweat. And let's be real, the setup made it too easy. The Browns' offense was so stale, you could fall asleep just watching them try to move the ball. Poor Joe Flacco, bless his fossilized arm, was out there tossing the football like it was about to explode in his hands. Every snap looked like he was trying to get rid of a live grenade before it went boom.
Developing story out of Cleveland. Tony Grossi of the Daily Grossi, him and Big Chops was on their podcast today, and they had some choice words to say about what Shedeur said when he was interviewed by his locker on his comments about him being ready, he wants to play now, and then talking about the quarterback play.
Meanwhile, Cleveland's wideouts were running routes like they were prepping for a track meet nobody bothered to attend. And sitting right in the middle of that mess is Shedeur Sanders, the rookie, the third stringer, just chilling, minding his business. Then ESPN Cleveland slides in with the most basic question of all time. Do you feel ready to play? 4 little syllables. That's it. Now hold up. What's the right answer here? Picture it. You're a rookie quarterback in the NFL, lights in your face, microphones shoved under your chin. What are you supposed to say? Nah, I'm trash, cut me today, please. The only acceptable answer, the answer every pro athlete has been giving since forever, is simple. I'm ready. That's not cocky, that's survival. Without that confidence, you don't even sniff the practice squad.
Million times, and I'll say it 1,003,452 times if I need to. There's no way you can hate Shedeur Sanders. Tony Grossi, a guy who is known in the Cleveland media for not being a fan favorite, for always being annoying, asking the wrong questions, starting all types of problems. Shedeur Sanders went up to him and straight up had the question for him.
But Tony Grossi, he took those 4 syllables and spun them into a whole scandal. Suddenly, in his world, Shedeur wasn't a confident rookie. He was some clout-chasing diva who can't breathe without being a trending topic. It was like Grossi heard, "I'm ready," and decided it was breaking news on TMZ. And here's where the comedy hits hard. Grossi's logic was wild. He's screaming, this guy is QB3, the Browns are trash, and somehow it's all Shedeur's fault because he dared to say he's ready. That's like blaming the substitute teacher for an entire school district failing math. And just when you think it couldn't get more ridiculous, Grossi doubles down, ranting like Shedeur never met a camera he didn't love. Grossi went all in, calling Shedeur a viral junkie desperate for attention, like he's out here fiending for likes and retweets just to breathe.
Being on business while keeping it lighthearted, and just, this is how leaders or people win over people. I'm so curious to know if this is going to change Tony Grossi's perspective on Shedeur Sanders, and if he does start to say positive things and maybe starts to like Shedeur Sanders. But it seems as if Shedeur right now can do no wrong. I pray that he continues to walk on this path because Cleveland has needed a guy like Shedeur. We've had the Nick Chubbs of the world. We've had the Denzel Wards. We've experienced the Myles Garretts of the world and David Njoku's and Baker Mayfield's and Jarvis Landry's, but we've never experienced anything quite like Shedeur Sanders, and I'm here for every.
He painted Sanders as some spotlight addict, shaking in withdrawal because nobody had clipped his highlights lately. But then, 3 minutes into his own rant, Grossi trips over his own words and admits the truth. ESPN Cleveland came to Shedeur. They shoved the mic in his face. They ran the clip. Translation? Shedeur wasn't chasing the spotlight. The spotlight got dropped on him heavy like a stage light crashing from the rafters. That's strike one, and it's brutal. Grossi's whole argument about Shedeur being fame-hungry crumbled the second he admitted the media hunted Sanders down, not the other way around. That's like accusing somebody of robbing a bank while they're literally at home watching Netflix in sweatpants. And then Grossi, without even catching himself, sets up strike two.
Begrudge any player saying what's on his mind. And he didn't approach them. Justin approached him. But you got to be mindful of what you say. And I think the one quote that, from what I see around the league, I could do better.
Do you think it was directed at his teammates or no? And
I don't think that.
malice?
But,
No,
but,
malice.
But it could come just like when Dylan Gabriel said, I'm a competitor, not an entertainer. Everyone assumed he was talking about Shedeur.
Yeah.
The same thing you could assume.
Yeah.
Yes.
In trying to bury Shedeur, he blurts out that the Browns' offense is struggling to score. No kidding. That's not news. That's a bad stand-up joke. It's the football equivalent of announcing water is wet, grass is green. Everyone in Cleveland's been suffering through this offense sputtering like a busted car running on expired gas. Joe Flacco? Man bless his veteran bones, but he couldn't throw a 5-yard out without looking like he was aiming straight for the cheerleaders on the sideline. Every pass felt like an adventure, and most of them had no happy ending. The Browns' run game stalled so bad, you'd think it was sponsored by a broken-down bus company. And in the middle of this mess, Grossi is out here trying to torch Shedeur, when all he really did was prove exactly why Sanders might be justified in saying he's ready.
Shedeur Sanders found Tony Grossi, the one that, if y'all look at my last video, I talked about him having an agenda of constantly saying bad things about Shedeur. Shedeur found him after the game and addressed him. I think we all can take a page out of Shedeur's book about somebody who constantly has something negative to say about you, and you don't necessarily know how to approach it. And Shedeur calmly went over to him and said that, man, I hope you finally got something positive to say after tonight, because you're always saying something negative about me, and I don't know what I did.
Grossi basically pulled the lever on his own trap door. He wanted to paint Shedeur as delusional, but ended up handing him the perfect alibi instead. Then came strike three, and it was ugly. Grossi tried to pull off the classic sports talk shuffle, bash the player for being confident, then turn around and admit that quarterbacks need confidence to even survive in the league. He ranted that Shedeur's ego was out of control, that saying "I'm ready" was arrogant, but then slipped up and admitted, well, quarterbacks should feel like they're ready. That's part of the position. Excuse me, what? That's like lecturing someone that cake ruins your diet while licking frosting off the fork in front of them. Pick a lane, Tony. And then Grossi dragged the Rams preseason game into the conversation like it was the Zapruder film. He referenced it over and over, acting like one exhibition outing sealed Shedeur's entire NFL future. His so-called evidence? Sanders took a couple sacks. That's it. That was his smoking gun. What he conveniently forgot to mention is the bigger headline. Shedeur didn't throw a single interception, 0 turnovers, nada. For a rookie, that's not a red flag, that's a green light, 0 fumbles, not one. Meanwhile, Dylan Gabriel, another young quarterback fighting for a spot, managed to throw an interception and cough up a fumble in his short time on the field. But sure.
How you address somebody with being direct, but also being non-threatening. Because at the end of the day, we know we can't run up on somebody and really tell them how we feel, because we're going to continue this narrative that they're trying to paint us to be. But Shedeur addressed him in a very respectful but direct way. And hopefully Tony ain't going to have nothing else to say that's out of line. we don't mind critique, but let it make sense.
Let's drag the rookie who actually held onto the ball, because apparently taking sacks behind a backup O-line is way worse than literally handing the defense 2 free possessions. Make it make sense. Here's what NFL coaches care about above all else: turnovers. You can live through sacks, you can survive incomplete passes, but if you start giving the ball away, you're cooked. That's Stefanski's #1 commandment. Don't gift wrap the ball to the other team. Period. And yet Grossi skips that part completely. He's too busy replaying those sacks on a loop like it's a career obituary, acting like each one was some catastrophic disaster. That's like clowning a chef for burning a piece of toast while ignoring the guy in the next kitchen who set the whole restaurant on fire. Priorities, Tony. Priorities.
Narrative. I don't understand your emotional investment in Shedeur.
Tony, I'm rooting for the kid. Don't worry about what my investment is. Worry about what your investment is with your guy. Don't worry about me. Don't worry about why I like a guy. I think that kid can play better than Dylan Gabriel. I said it before the draft, and I'll stick to it. I think he got a raw deal here in Cleveland. End of story. That's how I feel.
Then, just to tie himself in knots, Grossi pulls the same tired dance again. First, he says quarterbacks should always have confidence. Then he flips and attacks Shedeur for being confident. By the end, he was so twisted up you could have parked him in the middle of a mall food court as part of the pretzel stand. This wasn't analysis. It was a man publicly losing an argument with himself. And here's the part that really shuts it all down. While Grossi's out here foaming at the mouth, ranting about how Shedeur should sit down and stop hogging attention.
The way that Shedeur Sanders handled this interaction with Tony Grossi. If you don't know who Tony Grossi is, he's a Browns reporter who has been around for a really long time and has been highly critical of the team and its players, which sometimes is justified, sometimes is a little over the top. He's really known for getting into it with Baker Mayfield over the years and had some not nice things to say about his height in particular. He's obviously been highly critical of Shedeur as well since he got to Cleveland, and Shedeur handled this with class and in a really lighthearted manner. Like, I really respect that he kind of said it to his face and was like, yeah, you say negative stuff about me. Like, what do you have to say about that? But he also laughed it off and was patting his back, so he wasn't taking it too seriously. Like, he came at it from a really...
The actual head coach, Kevin Stefanski, is calmly telling reporters the truth. All his players are working hard and all of them feel ready. That's not drama, that's just reality. In other words, Stefanski basically shrugged like, yeah, of course he feels ready. That's what quarterbacks do. The head coach wasn't panicking, wasn't clutching pearls about Sanders showing confidence, wasn't giving any lectures on humility. He just confirmed reality and kept it moving. And if the coach himself isn't bothered, why is Tony Grossi acting like this is some 5-alarm emergency?
He was reps in camp and he's got a sore arm. Why? Well, people say he throws a lot before practice and after practice. Well, how counterproductive is that?
I'm sure there's a method to the madness.
What is it?
He's trying to get his arm right, don't? I'm sure he's probably practiced more now than he has at any point in his
Well, it
collegiate
obviously
career.
was counterproductive because he's got a sore arm.
Okay, so you're using that as a negative against the kid?
I don't understand.
Jesus God, would you give him a chance?
Well,
my God,
here's the
because his
thing.
arm's sore?
Yeah.
What, that's a negative, that the kid's got a sore arm?
Yes!
Because he's working too hard?
At this point, it almost feels like Grossi's outrage had nothing to do with football at all. The funniest part? Grossi walked into that studio thinking he was dropping gospel truth, only for everyone to realize he was preaching straight out of the book of outdated takes. Meanwhile, defensive lines around the league can testify. Shedeur's pocket movement has left them spinning like carnival teacup rides, dizzy and confused while he slices them up. Shedeur isn't just earning respect, he's sending out invoices, tacking on late fees, and charging interest to every critic's account. And Grossi? He ended up looking like the guy who forgot to pay his own bill. The receipts are endless, and Sanders is keeping them neatly filed. Then comes the delicious irony. Grossi tried to play the role of gatekeeper.
Man, Tony Grossi of the Daily Grossi is back at it again. Every chance he can get to slander or hate on Shedeur Sanders, he's gonna do it. Now, we all know, I did a video earlier today about Shedeur Sanders talking about he was ready and talking about the quarterback play that has been displayed around the NFL. And he says he think he could, do better than some of the quarterbacks that are playing right now.
Like he was guarding the holy halls of quarterback respectability. Picture it, a cranky mall cop in a wrinkled polyester jacket acting like his plastic badge meant something. But the moment Shedeur lit him up, that fake badge was exposed, and suddenly the gate he was guarding swung wide open. Sanders didn't just step through, he strolled in like he owned the whole building. And instead of fighting back with facts, Grossi leaned on dusty cliches. He tossed out tired lines about proving it on the big stage, as if Shedeur hadn't already turned some of the league's toughest matchups into his own personal highlight reels. Grossi wanted to sound like the wise elder statesman of football takes, the seasoned vet passing down knowledge like scripture. But in reality, he came off like that guy at the bar ranting, "They don't make quarterbacks like they used to," while not even knowing what a zone read actually is. The whole fiasco proves one undeniable fact. Some people just don't know when to retire their dusty old playbook. Grossi is still clinging to arguments written on stone tablets, while Shedeur Sanders is busy rewriting the quarterback manual on an iPad Pro with Wi-Fi and highlights streaming in real time. It's not even a competition. It's historical fiction going toe-to-toe with live-streamed reality. One side stuck in grainy black and white, the others in crystal clear 4K Ultra HD. And you already know which one the audience is locked in on, and here's the kicker. Grossi really thought fans would have his back. He pictured the old guard giving him a standing ovation, the back in my day crowd who still swear the forward pass ruined football.
Hey man, look, Shedeur Sanders, I really wish he didn't give Cleveland media as much content as he gave, but it seems like every single time he opens his mouth, these Browns, whether it's the Mary Kay Cabbage, whether it's the disrespectful Tony Grossolini, it does not matter. They're going to find a way to get greasy and get greasy and find a way to have Shedeur Sanders in his mouth. And here's something I want to point out, right? I want to point out a few things in this video because I really am tired of Tony Grossi. At first, I thought he was just an old school type guy. Hey, maybe he's rough on, but no. At this point, you're purposely trying to bury Shedeur, who's already being buried and has been.
But instead, the fans torched him. They roasted him like marshmallows over a summer bonfire, and the clips spread like wildfire across social media. The memes, endless. The replays, everywhere. And Grossi's credibility? Straight nosedive into meme status. Shedeur didn't just win. He handed the internet free content on a silver platter. And the funniest part of it all? Sanders didn't even break a sweat. No dramatic mic drop, no forced theatrics, just clean logic mixed with cold, hard results. That was enough to bury Grossi's whole act. Shedeur was basically holding up a giant scoreboard screaming, "Check the wins, check the stats, check the film." Meanwhile, Grossi was fumbling around with excuses, praying nobody noticed that his entire argument had just been blown to pieces. Spoiler alert, everybody noticed. The funniest part? Grossi genuinely believed he was standing on rock-solid ground, like his take was carved out of granite. But the second Sanders pressed back, the whole thing collapsed like a sandcastle getting crushed under high tide. Grossi wasn't defending football logic. He was defending his pride. And egos, they don't survive when cold, hard facts roll in like a tidal wave. What made it even more comical was how fast the story flipped. 1 minute, Grossi was posturing as the self-appointed guardian of football truth. The next, he looked like a guy caught live on camera trying to rewrite his own opinion mid-sentence. Watching him backpedal was pure comedy. It was like watching a toddler attempt to moonwalk, awkward, clumsy, and funny for all the wrong reasons. He didn't just miss a step, he tripped over his own words and fell flat in the mud. Meanwhile, Shedeur stood calm, looking like the kid in class who actually studied, while everyone else was still filling in random bubbles on the test sheet. Every question Grossi tossed out got flipped back at him, and you could almost feel the audience tuning him out in real time. This wasn't some polite little back and forth. This was a demolition derby. Just a couple of clean, sharp points from Shedeur, and suddenly Grossi's so-called masterpiece argument looked like a kid's crayon doodle on the fridge. And that's where the regret hit hard. Losing is one thing, but realizing you were outmatched before the fight even started, that's humiliation on another level. By the time the dust settled, Tony Grossi wasn't the sharp analyst he thought he was. He was the punchline. The man walked into the studio thinking he'd bury Shedeur Sanders, but instead, he handed Sanders a shovel and dug his own hole. Every critique turned into free promo for Shedeur. Every rant melted down into another meme factory special. Grossi came in looking like the judge, but left looking like the clown in the courtroom. And here's the part nobody can ignore. Shedeur didn't even try.
One of the more polarizing players in all of the NFL, and he's a third stringer that y'all said shouldn't be talked about a lot. So where I want to start with this is, y'all know the quote, y'all know what Shedeur said. He said, "I'm ready right now." Jimmy Horn Jr. trademark, you know how that gets down. And he said, "Look, of course I feel like I'm ready to play. I'm ready to get down." So what did Kevin Stefanski, the head coach, I'm sure he was so upset at Shedeur.
He didn't need a flashy speech, didn't need to clap back with some viral one-liner. His confidence alone, backed by the stats and the tape, did all the talking. Meanwhile, Grossi was tripping over contradictions, trying to convince fans that confidence was bad, right after admitting quarterbacks need confidence to survive. That's not analysis. That's self-destruction on air. Fans saw it instantly. They clipped it, shared it, turned it into punchlines before Grossi even left the building. What he thought was a mic drop moment ended up as a blooper reel with his name plastered all over it. The streets, the socials, even rival analysts, everybody got in on the roast. And Shedeur, he walked out untouched. No mud on his jersey, no stumbles on his record. Just a rookie quarterback who dared to say he was ready and accidentally exposed how fragile some of these so-called experts really are. Grossi wanted to test him, but the test flipped back on him. In the end, Shedeur didn't just win the moment, he owned the narrative, and Tony Grossi will be remembered as the guy who turned his own hot take into ashes. And let's not skip past the pure pettiness of it all. Grossi wasn't just wrong, he was loud and wrong. He puffed up his chest, raised his voice, leaned all the way into his take, and then got flattened so badly the whole room felt that secondhand embarrassment. It was like somebody stepping on stage at karaoke, belting out with full confidence, only to butcher every single note while the crowd slowly turned their heads in pain. Brutal, that's Grossi in a nutshell. He didn't just miss the target, he fired the arrow backwards. He thought he had the authority, but Shedeur came in with the receipts, and in today's game, receipts beat rhetoric every single time. Now Grossi's stuck wearing the badge of instant regret like it's a scarlet letter, and no amount of spin can erase it. That clip is out there forever, looping nonstop, reminding the world exactly how badly he fumbled this take. Shedeur didn't just win the debate, he stamped Grossi into sports history as a permanent cautionary tale. And that, folks, is a legacy you can't delete. So if you enjoyed watching Grossi get roasted by his own contradictions, make sure to hit that like button, drop a comment, subscribe, and share this video with someone who needs a laugh. I'll catch you on the next one.